Hey gang, in this short video, my aim is to expose the vicious nature of procrastination and to help you consistently overcome procrastination for the rest of your life using a checklist. And remember, a checklist approach will ensure that what you learn today will be preserved and you can quickly revisit it once a week or once a month, because remember, procrastination is not a one-off battle but an ongoing battle, and what better tool to use against it than an efficient and effective checklist. Let's get started. So we want to change procrastination. Now before we consume knowledge, it's always helpful to think through it with your existing knowledge, so that things that you are going to listen don't just bounce off your mind, but rather that you're able to absorb it deeply and act on it and implement it in your life. So when it comes to procrastination, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? Probably you may think, what is this procrastination? Okay, so that's a good question. Another thing that may come to your mind is, what is the implication of procrastination? Is it something innocent in that it's just affecting my goals or maybe making me slower at achieving my goals? Or is it having deeper implications? Alright, so this is the first item in our checklist. Now let's take a look at this in detail. So procrastination is pretty straightforward. You plan to do something, but then when the time comes to act, you talk to yourself and you say, probably I don't want to do that, and you do something else which gives you temporary pleasure. So this is what procrastination is. But the more important question is procrastination just something very innocent? Is it just something small which has small effects on your life, or is it something vicious which probably is not that clear but has significant impact on your life? When you read the book The Procrastination Puzzle by Professor Timothy, you will see that procrastination is much more vicious than what you thought about it. First of all, it causes you stress which can harm your health. Secondly, people who procrastinate tend to also procrastinate on healthy behaviors such as exercising and eating healthy food. Thirdly, procrastination also sabotages your happiness, because happiness is something that you get when you pursue successfully meaningful goals. And finally, how many of us are there who, because of procrastination, tend to not do things that we ought to do, like probably playing with your kid after office? Now remember, as per studies, the things that we don't do because of procrastination cause us a lot of sadness when we are like aged and when we think back about our life. So remember, procrastination is not just affecting your goals, it's affecting your health, it's affecting your happiness, and if you don't deal with it effectively, it will cause you a lot of regret in the later part of your life. So procrastination is not that innocent, small difficulty in your life. It is something vicious, and it has deep and big effects on your life if you don't deal with it effectively. So this part of the checklist is pretty clear. We know what procrastination is, and we have very clearly understood its effects. So back to our checklist again. In the next item that we have over here, what would be your thoughts? So you have understood that it's vicious and you have understood its implications. So the natural thoughts would be, how do I practically overcome procrastination? Okay, and it is in this regard that we will be discussing about 5 techniques in this video. So technique 1 up to technique 5. And once we are done discussing these techniques, let's also discuss how to continually beat procrastination, because we know that it's an ongoing battle. So let's first discuss the 5 techniques that we can practically use to defeat procrastination. And again, these techniques are from the book The Procrastination Puzzle by Professor Timothy. Let's dive in. We've understood how vicious procrastination is, and probably you may have realized that it is more troublesome than what we typically expect it to be. So given this, how do we solve this or fight this? So that's the first item that we have under this section in the checklist. So technique number 1, know that procrastination is actually an emotion. It's based on some kind of a fear that you have. It may be a fear of failure. It may be a fear that you may not be good enough to do something. Like probably when I want to shoot this video, I may have the fear that who am I? What kind of expert am I for procrastination? Who am I to talk about this in a video, right? So you can have all sorts of fears, and these type of fears tend to cause you to delay taking action. So that's the first key takeaway. Procrastination typically stems from a fear. And how do you put this into action? The next time you feel procrastination, try to think about it for a few seconds and try to name the fear that causes you to procrastinate. And again, when you name the fear, you're being conscious about it, and that's the first step for overcoming procrastination. So technique number 1, procrastination is typically based on a fear. Name the fear. So how do I overcome the fear once I state the fear? Let me give you how I like to approach it. If I identify that this is because of a fear that I can't do it or it's too difficult, what I tend to do is I try to break down the task into much simpler items, and in this way I get momentum by being able to do some simple tasks, and then with each task that gets fulfilled, my confidence starts to increase, and then slowly you will see that the fear vanishes. Like for example, let's say you want to wake up early, but you have the fear that you will never get yourself to wake up early. So instead of trying to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, why don't you try to wake up at 6:30? Or again, it depends from person to person. If you're a person who's currently waking up at 7 and if your aim is to wake up at 5, why don't you try waking up at 6:30 for a few days? And in this way, you will get some momentum by winning the small goal, and then you can progressively increase the difficulty. So this is another technique that I use when I encounter fear, which typically tends to cause procrastination. The second technique that I have for you from the book The Procrastination Puzzle by Timothy Pychyl is that you don't need motivation to take action. Oh, that may be a new piece of information for a lot of people, because typically we tend to think that I need motivation to act. But the truth is that you don't need motivation. Motivation is just a feeling. Even if you don't feel motivated, you still can take action. Think about it. All right, so let's not take something outside to convince us about this truth. Think about your past life. Have there been occasions where you did not feel motivated to do something, but you still went ahead and did that? I'm sure you can think about so many things. That's because you actually don't need motivation to act. And that brings us to the third technique. Be a professional rather an amateur. An amateur takes action whenever they feel like things to them are like a hobby. Like let's say you want to write a book. All right, I'll write a book when I feel like it, and probably that's going to be just once in X number of 10-20 days, right? So that's an amateur. They take action when they feel like. But a professional takes action because of who they are. So think about your identity. What is your identity? Like, are you a good friend? Are you a good father? Are you a good professional or a faithful person at work? So who are you? And take action because of who you are rather than because of what you feel. So the next time you feel to procrastinate and not play with your child after a day's work, think about who you are. Like you may have this thought that I am a good father or I am a good mother. So based on who you are, take action, and not based on the motivation that you feel at that moment. So that was technique number 3. And then we come to technique number 4, which is that if you can strengthen the why behind a goal that you have, then it'll help you not procrastinate often and rather take more action often. So think about why you want to write that book, or why do you want to work on that side business or side hustle, or think about why you want to consistently spend time with your son or daughter as they grow up, and think about why you want to have quality time with your life partner or with your good friends. So think about the why and strengthen the intention behind your goals, and that will help you overcome procrastination as well. So that was technique number 4. And then we come to the final technique, which is implementation intentions. So implementation intentions is just a fancy word for being prepared. So think about occasions that cause you to procrastinate and then prepare before the occasion occurs. So they are just simply if-then statements. If obstacle A happens, then I will overcome it in this manner. So think about these type of scenarios. Like for example, if I snooze the alarm and wake up late, then I will not waste the remaining part of the day, but rather I'll stay calm and get ready quickly and start to work on project XYZ. So that's an example of an implementation intention. Or if after work I'm tired, then I will just read 2 pages instead of trying to read 20 pages and then altogether skip the goal of reading a book because I'm too tired. So that is another example of an implementation intention. So make sure that whenever you encounter procrastination and you either get defeated by it or you win over it, take these instances where you feel procrastination as hints that probably it would help to develop an implementation intention, as in what you would do if such a scenario occurs again or the next time. So use these 5 techniques to overcome procrastination, and remember, overcoming procrastination is an ongoing battle to become a better version of yourself rather than a one-off victory. So that brings us to our next checklist item. So the next thing in our mind is to how to beat procrastination in an ongoing manner, because the last thing that we want is that we just got this new knowledge and we overcome procrastination for a week and then we forget and we are back to square one. So that is not what we want. What we want in our life is true change, is change that lasts, and for this we will need a technique. So we have discussed and understood that procrastination probably is causing much more trouble to you than what you had expected it was doing. And we have also discussed 5 interesting techniques that you can practically use to overcome procrastination. Now we come to the most important part in this video, that overcoming procrastination is not a one-off battle but a continuous war which you need to keep winning. So how do you do this? So what I would say is use the checklist which I have provided along with this video and stick it on a wall or in some notebook or have it stored somewhere in a way that you can revisit these points once in a week or once in a month. So that is the core principle of overcoming procrastination, because now you have this knowledge fresh in your mind, you have made some implementation intentions, you have got new knowledge, you are more aware, and your desire to overcome procrastination is strong. But again, tomorrow life will keep moving forward and new things will come which will try to take away your attention, and rightly so. There are things that we need to put our attention to. But then to consistently win procrastination, you need to have this knowledge, the knowledge about the vicious nature of procrastination and the practical techniques that you can use to simply overcome procrastination. So this knowledge should be fresh in your mind so that you can consistently win this battle. And the best way for this is to have these points in a very short and crisp manner stored somewhere in your notebook, in your laptop, on your wall, in the form of a paper, etc. Wherever you get to revisit it at least once a month. In this way, you will be able to keep using what you learned in this video. And again, there's nothing better than a simple checklist to help you achieve this. And because you have spent a few minutes watching this video and gaining this knowledge, if you make it a practice to revisit this once a month, you would need not more than 30 seconds or 45 seconds to refresh your mind about what you learned in this video and to refresh your thoughts about your implementation intentions and your identity and who you see as yourself and what you want to become and why you want to overcome procrastination. So do make it a point to store this checklist and revisit it frequently. So remember, defeating procrastination is an ongoing process. So schedule some time for next week or next month to go over this checklist over here. And the good thing about a checklist is that you can just tick off things as you go over them. So when you do that, you will also get a sense of progress. So quickly go over the points that we have discussed in this video. It will only take you a minute because you're just reflecting on things that you already know and then try to act out and try to act on them. In this way, you will be able to consistently beat procrastination. Now, if you want to know how I use a checklist to work and do my projects and things like that, how I break them down and how it helps me effectively overcome procrastination, because like everyone else, I also tend to procrastinate and I don't win every battle, but I just try to become better and better. So if you want to see how I tend to use checklists, check out this video. See you in the next video.